Hey everyone, welcome. This is Beyond the Lane. My name is Mark, and we are talking about the match against Burnley at the weekend there. So, Spurs running out 3-0 victors, could possibly have been more on the day, but not one to complain about for an opening match of the season, especially against a promoted side. Always difficult when you get up against one of these guys in the first game of a new season, simply because they can change managers, they can have players that we haven't heard of or seen before, and it makes it a little bit more difficult, especially in terms of Burnley, where previously in the Premiership they had Vincent Company as their manager. He left to become the Bayern manager, and now we have a different manager there altogether in Scott Parker, a known entity as such in the Premier League in terms of having had managerial experience there beforehand. Also a former Spurs player, but his teams always play a little bit different as well. So him coming up into the Premier League after a very successful season last year makes it a little bit more difficult. It's a hard one to choose. You always want one of the new ones at the start of the season, just because usually it's a little bit easier to play against, but it can be a little bit difficult as well for the reasons I've just stated. Burnley put up a decent fight against Spurs, but we were just overwhelming in terms of our play, and that is mostly thanks to Mohamed Kudus and the creative effect that he had in that game. Certainly, coming down and attacking down the wings, we were strong on both sides. Right wing looks very, very good, but for me, I would love to see a bit more action on the left. It just doesn't feel quite as strong when we're attacking down that side. Jed Spence, who's just signed a brand new contract with Spurs, looked very strong, but again, it's we just don't quite have that same kind of connection down that left hand side as what we do on the right. So it'd be good to maybe see if we can get Eze through the door. Savinho was one that in my transfer video earlier on, I had said that we had been looking to make that happen. It looked like it may well go, but the rumours now seem to come out to say that Man City are putting a hold on that, which also means that they will not be signing Rodrigo. We'll wait and see what comes out over the next day or so and see if there's anything else from maybe a higher source coming out to say that that is it dead in the water. If it is, we do still need another attacking option, so it'll be interesting to see where we look at that. As I said in that transfer video as well regarding Eze, who'd be very strong down that left hand side, and certainly looking at that lapping overplay between um, Jed Spencer and Dougie when he comes back from injury. We were to get someone like Eze out onto that left hand side, it would be phenomenal in terms of the overlap, the overruns, and things like that there, the cutting back. It would be very good, I think, for us in terms of that. It's not doing a disservice to Taylor, to Odebear, two very good players, a hell of a lot of potential, and both of them certainly coming in and playing on that left hand side. It's just they're not quite there to give it the big sort of consistent performances that we would really be hoping to see down that left side. And that's not to say that they won't come into their own throughout the course of the season and prove us wrong. It's just that we just need someone a little bit more experienced down that side of the ball, which takes the pressure off them, allows them to kind of grow into those roles as well. Mateus Tell has shown flashes of it, but not consistently or for full games. And Odebear's been very, very similar, although both players are very well thought of by Thomas Frank. So looking into that game in itself, Kudos absolutely smashed it in terms of creativity and consistency throughout preseason, but certainly throughout that whole game when he was on the pitch was absolutely phenomenal. Two assists, five chances created towards goal, defensive play, tackles, dribbles, runs. He did everything. He did it all. If he can maintain that level of fitness as well as consistency throughout the whole season, then the £55 million that we paid for him will be an absolute steal and would certainly put him up there as probably one of the best signings for the season as well as the summer period. And certainly when you compare him against some of the other purchases that have been made out there, he's certainly sitting up there in the higher percentile of those that have been brought into the Premier League this season in terms of what he's shown. And also only one game, and it is getting a wee bit further ahead of ourselves here, but he certainly has shown the promise that he did in West Ham's first season, that when he signed for them. Well, last season, the whole team as a whole in West Ham played particularly poorly last season. So hopefully with him coming into us, he's actually getting the opportunity to play in the right position because he didn't do that last year with West Ham. So hopefully coming in here, he is playing in a position where he has the free rein to do what he does best. Certainly seen glimpses of that in the PSG game, as well as the Newcastle and the Arsenal game, where he was able to play to his strengths, getting that ball, being able to shrug off any opposition coming in to try and take it from him, but more importantly, being able to drive that ball forward and looking for opportunities, not necessarily for goal scoring for himself, but for goal scoring for others. And we'll take a wee moment to talk about the interview after the match as well, but just going over the rest of this stuff, and we'll come on to that momentarily. But he was absolutely phenomenal in his drive, his passion, just everything that he did on the pitch. He never put a foot wrong. And certainly the creativity behind that second goal for Richarlison was just fantastic. That final ball comes into him, takes a tap on it with his left, pulling it past the Burnley left back, I think it was, to then just step beyond him and put that cross in with the right, seeing that two-footedness and being able to make that play, and already being aware of where Richie's position is going to be in that box before he hit that bicycle kick and putting the ball into the back of the net. So seeing a lot more of this from Kudus, and I've certainly noticed it in the last couple of games I've been able to watch from the pre-season as well. He's very much always looking to make that pass. It's not one of these ones where he's getting the boys driving forward and he's just pure head down, go for goal, and try and do it all himself. You can constantly see that he is trying to be aware of where's his teammates, looking for that sort of final pass into the box or on the outskirts of the box for someone whose job it is to put the ball into the back of the net. Richie's play as well through the middle of centre forward was absolutely phenomenal too. It was the same type of Richie that we seen in the Super Cup, the Europa League Cup as well. I mean, he was just played out of his skin, grinding for everything, chasing things down. His first touch was great. His ability to actually play hold up and then take the ball on and just drive at Burnley was fantastic. Something we seen in a very short spell a season or two ago with him when he went on that run where he scored like 9 or 11 goals. But then dropped off again when he had that really bad injury, had surgery, came back, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, who is this guy? But then after 10, 11 games, it dropped off again. So the worry for this is that he's found a bit of form. He drives this on, but then does the usual 9, 10 games in, it drops off, and we get the Richie that we've seen over the last couple of seasons. In terms of the way he played, and if he can keep that consistency up, certainly at least for the next 6 to 10 games, it means that Dominic Solanke has the opportunity to fully rest and heal up without having that pressure to come back sooner, because we're desperately needing somebody to act as that number 9, number role and striker, and trying to get the goals for us. As we said in previous videos, with Kulusevski out injured, Son left, and Matters out injured, we're losing 60 odd goal contributions in a season, which is very, very difficult to replace. However, I think with Kudus coming in the door, and if he can keep that consistency up and the creativity and being able to put those balls into the box or to feed off the players who will do that final strike and put the ball into the net, and if Richie can keep that form going, then I think we'll be looking on very good times in terms of able to backfill those missing goals. Obviously, when Solanke gets injured and comes back, then if we are struggling down that left-hand side, we may potentially see Richie moving out onto that left, but you would hope that by that point, we'll hopefully have Eze through the door, plus another, plus we'll also have Odegaard and Tell, hopefully being a bit more consistent in playing down that left-hand side as well. So the future is definitely looking bright in terms of goal scoring opportunities. As I say, as long as Richie keeps that consistency going, it gives Dominic Solanke the option to come back 100% fully fit and ready to play. It's always one of these things, we always seem to rush players back, and then they come on, maybe get a game or two, and then they get injured again. So hopefully, if he can keep that going, that will prevent that from Solanke. And then it gives Thomas Frank the kind of headache all managers want. You want 2 or 3 players for every single slot, each pushing each other to be able to do it. So what you want to see is if Richie's starting, Richie's playing well, he's scoring a goal, Solanke's coming on, playing well, creating goals, scoring goals, and just giving us that nightmare that no matter who we're putting up front, teams will start to be afraid of us again in terms of goal scoring. One of the bad things from the start of this season is that you've seen lots of kind of media outlets talking about the big teams in the Premiership, talking about their attacking threat. And for the first time in a long time, we have not been spoken about as being a team that is capable of scaring other teams or making us worthy of note to be talking about. And that Spurs have always been famous for having exceptionally good attacking front lines. Um, Sheringham and Klinsmann. We've had Berbatov, Defoe, Peter Crouch, and that'll make people some laugh. But Crouch scored a lot of good goals for us. Robbie Keane. We've had a lot of good centre forwards, and then obviously Kane and Sonny. So, we have the ability to do that now, and hopefully we could just bring in that attacking impetus into the squad. We'll start making people sit up and take notice. If we can get Eze through the door, then that's going to be one hell of an attacking lineup. And they're thinking maybe another month or two, Kulusevski will start making his way back into the team. We're going to start to be that threat again, but we need to make sure that we manage that consistency and being able to deliver week on week. And people will look at it and go, yeah, but it was just Burnley. Yeah, it was just Burnley, but at the end of the day, you've got to play what's in front of you. You've still got to score goals and you've still got to make the 3 points at the end of the day, and that's what we did on Saturday. Um, a lot of other good things to take away from that. Sar's performance was fantastic again. Looking across the team, the back line played exceptionally well. Romero van de Ven, very strong. And Vicario didn't have to do too much. Still worry a little bit when it comes to balls coming into him. I still stand by what I've said in previous videos. I think potentially by the end of the season we may see Kinski getting that number one slot and really, really pushing that and making it for his own. I just think he seems a lot more calmer on the ball when it comes to him and certainly seems to hold it a bit better. But we will wait and see. At the end of the day, it is just the first game of the season and there is still a lot to play. Potentially, depending on where we go throughout the season and all competitions, we could be looking at playing 60 to 65 games. So we need to make sure that the squad is big enough, strong enough, and consistent enough to be able to take us through all of that. It would be nice to get another piece of silverware. I think realistically, in terms of a finish for this season, I think if we can hit top six, top eight, it's a fast improvement on what we've done previously and maybe a good run in the Champions League and potentially picking up one of the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup would be quite nice as well. But we'll wait and see. As I say, the season has just started. Going back to the match on Saturday, um, talking about Richarlison, those two goals. The first one was an absolute brilliant strike as well. Ball coming in, hitting it to the far end side of the goalkeeper. Nice low, driven hard into that bottom corner of the net. Brilliant striker's goal. Something that's been very difficult seeing that from Richie in the past. It's not something he does particularly often. And then if we look at the second goal, 17 touches in total as part of the team play for that one before Richie hitting that bicycle kick into the net and every member of the starting 11 touching that ball throughout that whole process. So it kind of shows what a great goal it actually was, and not just the finish. The finish was sublime, very reminiscent of the bicycle kick he scored for Brazil in 2022. So if we can get a wee bit more of that, then I think we'll all be doing very, very well, especially for that one. And in the first game of the season, he may actually not only have just scored goal of the month, goal of the week, whatever competition they do for that, but potentially the goal of the season as well. But there's plenty more games to come, so you can always top that one off. But yeah, even when you look at Brennan Johnson's goal for the third one as well, it was a phenomenally well taken goal for Brennan Johnson. How many times did we see him last season where he's on a one-on-one with the goalkeeper and completely fluffs it? His back end play in terms of attacking the far post and crosses coming in, it's realistically for a very young player, it's his bread and butter. He's very good at attacking those back posts and putting that ball because nobody expects him to pop up there, and yet every single time he does. So actually seeing him take one of those balls on where he's going one-on-one with the goalkeeper and actually sliding the ball in under him and at a good wee distance out as well and getting that goal was fantastic. So hopefully we will see that picking up and he'll do more and more as his confidence grows on those one-on-ones. Because when I seen it coming in, I thought to myself, God, he's going to miss this one. He's going to end up hitting it right at the goalkeeper, or he's going to hit it wide trying to put it past him, but he didn't. Excellently taken, very well worked goal for him, and certainly hopefully we'll see a lot more of those. He is a player that he does get a lot of shade cast on him by some of the supporter group, which I don't understand. He's a very young player. He's got so much talent. He has such high potential threshold for a very, very young player. And the fact he scored so many goals last season as well, and was still having people saying that we need to be getting rid of him, I just don't understand it. I really don't. I think he's a fantastic talent, and I certainly think that transition between what Postecoglou got out of him last season to what Thomas Frank can do for him and with him as well. I mean, if you've got to remember that Thomas Frank tried to sign him as well before we got him, so it's a player he's been looking at for quite some time, so that he's going to be able to develop him even further into that role. So times are looking very, very good for Brennan Johnson. I think certainly for Spurs, the attacking talent that we have and the potential for that, we are looking very, very good from that point of view. Um, you know, Talking about Mateus Tell as well, it was very good to see the stadium support for him when he was out warming up, and a very good manoeuvre by Thomas Frank bringing him on as a single substitution rather than part of a double or a trio. I think it was a very good move so that he was getting that solo applause as he was coming on as well, and the chanting from some of the fans in the stadium as well was a very good way to show our support in light of all the racist bollocks that people have been posting online about him for taking that penalty. So hopefully you'll see that actually the true fan and supporter base is behind him, and that he is supported within the team and the stadium as well. So that was very good. Well done, guys. That was really, really good to see. And I know that the player will have really appreciated that as well. So hopefully that puts to bed, and hopefully the guys responsible for what was posted or written online will get caught, and the authorities will deal with them. And we'll see very similar to what happened to the Liverpool supporter who recently abused Semenyo in the Liverpool game at the weekend. We'll end up seeing those guys getting banned and hopefully being hit with the full force of the legislation and law behind them as well. So only time will tell, but hopefully that'll all be ongoing in the background. So it's very good to see that too. As I say, I think that left wing slot is going to be a bone of contention for the season. It's okay, but I'd love it to be stronger. I know I've already talked about it and mentioned this, but certainly when you see it in terms of the work down that right hand side with Pedro Porro and Brennan Johnson or Kudos coming down that right hand side as well, we just look so good. But the left hand side, it's good, but it could be better. And I think as time goes on, we'll see that. Let's say if we can get this SA deal over the line as well, and it's looking likely that we probably will, then that left hand side will be phenomenal going down, especially if you're getting Spence and Doggy swapping in and out as well throughout the course of the season. What else are we going to look at? It was interesting in one of the videos leading up, and I think it was the preview for this match. I did mention that there were a number of Premiership rule changes that were going to be introduced into this season, and one of the ones I did talk about was the 8-second rule for goalkeepers. So if you hold the ball for longer than 8 seconds, it used to previously there would be a free kick given, or the goalkeeper would receive a booking for wasting time and then be forced to take the kick or whatever it was. What we're actually seeing now is, and I do apologise if I get this wrong, Martin Dubravka, the goalkeeper, held the ball for longer than 8 seconds, was penalised for that, and Spurs were awarded a corner kick from that. So that's what the new rule is. Hold it for longer than 8, the opposition will be given a corner kick. So it's interesting because I tend to find my own feeling is that Vicario has a tendency sometimes to hold on to the ball longer than he probably should. And certainly last season, there was a rule introduced about time wasting goalkeepers in 8 seconds, but it wasn't overly enforced by referees. So it's interesting to see that in the first game, and definitely against us, that we happen to be not quite sure the right wording for it, but certainly Burnley were the victims in this case, and we had a free kick, which is very nice when it works for you. We just need to be careful that it doesn't happen against us. It'd be quite interesting to see at the end of the season the stats for this. So, in terms of what's happened, how many times has there been a foul created by a goalkeeper holding it for 8 seconds and the amount of corners given for that? But more interestingly, how many goals have been created from that, and then seeing that broken down by how many teams committed those fouls and how many goals did they concede from the corner kick being given as a set piece against them because of the goalkeeper creating the foul in the first place. So it'll be an interesting stat to have a look at the end of the season. And certainly if I remember at the end of the season when we do a season breakdown, maybe try and slip that in and see how well we did out of it compared to others. We've not really been a team that gets a lot of these kind of decisions for us. So it was very interesting to see us being the first team in the Premier League to benefit from that in a game. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that works out over the course of the season. At the end of the match, there was the interview with Kudus and Richie, which was, I don't know if anybody had seen it, but there were a couple of takes that I had on it, which I thought was very, very good. Given the fact that basically the two of them were our best players on the pitch on the day, being asked about the goal and stuff, Richie was quite calm and cool about it, which is quite funny, especially considering how much of a joker he is, and I was expecting a bit more out of it. But he basically referred to Kudus as being a Brazilian, which is probably one of the highest honours a player could be given by a Brazilian. Is that they played so well that they would have considered them to be a Brazilian. But I think more importantly for me, it was Kudus when he was being asked about his role in the game and his role and what he can do and deliver for Spurs. And the response from him came across as quite a humble guy. But the thing that really grabbed me, and I think hearing it really excites me for the season coming ahead. And he was basically turning around and saying, my role in the team is to serve the striker, is to serve the forward line. It's my job to create the goals, not really to score them. It's about my job is get the ball, give it to the person who will score. And playing as a striker myself when I was a younger lad, you always want the ball to be given to you to give you the opportunity to score the goals, and you always get a bit annoyed when the midfield players are cutting in and trying to score those goals that the balls are supposed to be getting supplied to you. So I can only imagine that Richarlison and Solanke must be sitting there thinking, geez, if this guy's going to keep doing what he's did in that first game and from what we've seen in pre-season, his whole impetus in playing a game of football is I'm going to hit those wings, I'm going to be hitting the byline, I'm going to be putting that ball into the box, and I'm going to be putting them to your feet. Because if I was Solanke watching what Kudus did with Richie in that first game of the season and seeing that ball coming in at his feet that many times and giving him the opportunity to put those balls away, I would be sitting rubbing my hands. And certainly if I had been Harry Kane and I had somebody like that for the last couple of seasons before I left, the goals he would have been scoring would have been a hell of a lot higher as well. So, I think, and certainly in terms of creativity, when we get our injured players back and stuff, that is going to look good. But certainly, Mohamed Kudus looked like the player that I remember watching when he first joined West Ham. That ability to take on, to be able to create, but not being overly greedy in terms of trying to do everything for himself. And sometimes, I hate seeing a midfield player or a winger whose role is to provide for the centre forwards to score and then trying to constantly cut in and do it for themselves when it's not their job. That's not what they've been hired to do. That's not the basis of their play. We've seen it. And unfortunately, if we cast ourselves back quite a few seasons ago with Soldado, very strong centre forward. The problem he had Bale playing on one side, Andros Tonse playing on the other, and those guys just kept cutting in and taking shots. So you end up with a centre forward that was not getting the service required to put the ball in the back of the net. And there's no point having a player that we've spent £65 million on to put the ball in the back of the net if your whole midfield line's trying to do all that for him. So it's very good seeing a creative midfielder coming in there that can do that. And the fact that, playing him in as a number 10 or playing him out wide, he has the ability to play right across there. So, the future's looking bright is basically what I'm trying to say here with what I've seen in the game. And certainly when you're hearing the things that's being said in the whole interview process. So I'm just checking to see if I've missed anything off. But look, certainly for me, after that first game, it looks good. It looks really good. And the fact that we played a very competitive game against PSG makes me think that when we come up against playing, Chelsea, Man City, who will be the game on Saturday, Liverpool, I think we'll see a different Spurs playing from what we've seen in the last couple of seasons. I think we will and could be very strong going forward, but I also think from a defensive perspective, we'll actually look quite good. But only time will tell. At the end of the day, we're still trying to get that Thomas Frank way of playing into the players' heads. And certainly now that we are seeing Cudi Romero with a brand new deal, Spence with a brand new deal, Bentancur's looking likely that he is probably going to sign his new deal as well. I think we'll start to see so much more coming out of these players because they're in a more happier environment than what they've been in beforehand. So, in terms of the game, I think we did exceptionally well. We could have scored more. We did look a little bit fragile on occasion on the defensive line, but I think we coped with everything well. So to come away with 3 points, 3 goals, and a clean sheet, I think we've done very well, and it's been a very good start to the season, and hopefully it will continue on. So that's the end of the video, guys, and hopefully the match breakdown, the review was interesting for you. Comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. What you thought of the game? Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree? If you disagree, why? What's your thoughts on it? I think we're looking good. So thank you very much for watching. Drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Spurs.